Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Amrish Prabhu. Thank you, Purna Bhagna Devi Dasi Mataji, and thank you, Krishna Samartha Krishna Prabhu, for the opportunity. Today's verse is 10, chapter 10, verse number 30. Third Sopan will start, but okay, I'll start. Prahladaschasmi daityanam alah kalyatam aham mriganam cha mrigendro aham vainateyascha pakshinam Prahladaschasmati daityanam kalah kalayatam aham mriganam cha mrigendro aham vainasteyascha pakshinam Prahladaschasmi daityanam kalah kalayatam aham mriganam cha mrigendro aham vainateyascha pakshinam. Translation, purport and synonyms. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prahladaha, Prahlad, cha also, asmi, I am, Daityanam, of the demons, Kalaha, time, Kalyatam, of subduers, Aham, I am, Mriganam, of animals, Cha, and Mrigendraha, the lion, Aham, I am, Vaina Teyaha, Garuda, Cha, also, Pakshinam, of birds, Prahlad, also, I am, of the demons, time of subduers, I am, of animals, and the lion, I am, Garuda, also, of birds. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among the beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda, the feathered carrier of Vishnu. Purport. Diti and Aditi are two sisters. The sons of Aditi are called Adityas, and the sons of Diti are called Daityas. All the Adityas are devotees of the Lord, and all the Daityas are atheistic. Although Prahlad was born in the family of Daityas, he was a great devotee from his childhood. Because of his devotional service and godly nature, he is considered to be a representative of Krishna. There are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things in the material universe, and so represent Krishna. Of the many animals, the lion is the most powerful and ferocious, and of the million varieties of birds, Garuda, the bearer of Lord Vishnu, is the greatest. So when I started preparing for this verse, all these personalities, Prahlad Maharaj, time, and the Indriya of animals, Mrigendriya of animals, the lion, the ferocious Prabhupada writes, and Garuda, they're all personalities. And Bhagavatam talks about very elaborately about them, particularly when I started looking about Diti and Aditi, the two sisters and wives of Kashyap Muni. And there's so much information, so I just lost somewhere. I got lost, actually. I could not relate. So much information. But it made a lot of sense, and I started enjoying, but Probably I was more interested in the in the pastimes of Krishna when we were studying this opulences of Krishna, how a devotee enjoys, and what Bhagavatam talks about this devotion. That's where my focus was. I made some notes on time. Canto 3 talks about it. Kapil Maharaj talks about time. And also in Canto 8, also Bhagavatam talks about time and what time can do, what time cannot do, how powerful time is. And of course, Prahlad Maharaj, entire Canto 7 is about Prahlad Maharaj, where he is a Mahajan, pure devotee of Krishna, in spite of being son of that demon. So when Bhagavatam, when the Bhagavatam was started, when Suta Goswami was being asked this question, that is why this Bhagavatam should be recited, and what those sages wanted to hear. They were very specific, asking some questions, what they want to know about Krishna or Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so one verse which I actually highlighted, and Prabhupada very nicely write in the purport, which also I thought I should share today. The verse is, Tasya karmani udarani pari gitani surabhihi bruhi nahash shraddha dhananam dayada tatah kalaha. Tasya, his, karmani, translated acts, udarani, magnanimous, pari gitani, broadcast, suribhihi, by the great souls, bruhi, please speak, naha, unto us, shraddha dhananam, ready to receive with respect, leelaya, pastimes, dadhataha, advented, kala, incarnations. Translation. His transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narad sing of them. Please therefore speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. So that was the question asked by those sages and to Suta Goswami when Bhagavatam was recited about 1000 years ago. And this entire chapter is opulence of Krishna, where we are coming across some very beautiful pastimes of Krishna, that what he is and what he has done and what he does in various roles, or we call it incarnations. In the purport, in this verse, Prabhupada writes about the variegatedness and other, which I would like to read and explain what I understand. The personality of Godhead is never inactive, as some less intelligent person suggests. His works are magnificent and magnanimous. His creations, both material and spiritual, are all wonderful and contain all variegatedness. They are described nicely by such liberated souls as Srila Narad, Vyas, Valmiki, Devala, Asita, Madhava, Sri Chaitanya, Ramanuj, Vishnu Swami, Nimbark, Sridhara, Vishwanath, Baladeva, Bhakti Vinod, Siddhant, Saraswati, and many other learned and self-reliant souls. So this is what a pure devotee does. They actually recite these pastimes, these opulences of Krishna, because they love Krishna. Then Prabhupada further writes, these creations, both material and spiritual, are full of opulence, beauty, and knowledge. But the spiritual realm is more magnificent due to its being full of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. What I understand, Krishna is talking about his opulences in material world. I may be wrong, but Prabhupada writes here that in the spiritual realm it is more magnificent, and he gives the reason why is it so. The material creations are manifested for some time as perverted shadows of the spiritual kingdom and can be likened to cinemas. That's Prabhupada is writing. And there are so many movies that have been made on these stories by Bollywood. They attract people of less intelligent caliber who are attracted by false things. Yeah, we all know this, that when some Bollywood makes some Mahabharata kind of serial, yeah, people love it because they are attracted by the false things. Such foolish men have no information of the reality, and they take it for granted that a false material manifestation is that all in all. That is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. They don't realize these opulences can actually happen, and this Krishna can do it. That's the problem of a non-devotee. But more intelligent men guided by sages like Vyas and Narad know that the eternal kingdom of God is more delightful, larger, and eternally full of bliss and knowledge. That's we all experiencing when we are going through the list of these opulences of Krishna. There's still more to come. And all those opulences are so great that we can spend time understanding and reading about it and discussing about it. Those who are not conversant with this activity of the Lord and his transcendent realm are sometimes served by the Lord in his adventure as incarnations, wherein he displays the eternal bliss of his association in the transcendental realm. So that's what Krishna's pastimes happen. For devotees who are not familiar, people like me, so that they can understand and start loving Krishna more. By such activities, he attracts the conditioned souls of the material world, as I said just now. Some of these conditioned souls are engaged in the false enjoyment of material senses, and others in simply negating their real life in the spiritual world. This is exactly what we see all the time. That's how people actually don't understand, don't realize, and they even think that this is not true. This story. And Prabhupada further writes, these less intelligent persons are known as karmis, or fruity workers, and jnanis, or dry mental speculators. But above these two classes of men is the transcendentalist known as sattvata, or the devotee who is busy neither with rampant material activity nor with material speculation. He is engaged in the positive service of the Lord, and thereby he derives the highest spiritual benefit unknown to the karmis and jnanis. Prabhupada is very clear, and he's writing that who will actually enjoy this kind of knowledge, this kind of information, and the pastime. And Krishna also mentions this. The devotees loves it. And if you don't love it, and if you get bored, means we are not devotee. Sometimes it happens to me. So when I was further in the before I conclude my realizations, that why devotee, what is the difference between this material information and spiritual emotion? What is the difference? That is the same chapter verse number 19. And we have discussed this verse many times. Vayam tu na vitrapyam, vayam tu na vitripyam, uttam shloka vikrame, yakshina vatam rasa jnanam, swadu pade pade. I remember this verse by swadu pade pade. So we never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorifying by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationship with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Thank you, devotees. That's my relation.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Avinash Prabhu, for your nice realization. And thank you, Amrish Prabhu, for giving us an opportunity to give our realization. Chapter 10, verse 30. Prahladas chasmi daityanam kalaha kalayatam aham mruganam cha mrugendro aham vaineteyasya pakshinam. Translation: among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among the beasts, I am the lion. And among the birds, I am Garud, the feathered carrier of Vishnu. So my realization here in purport, Srila Prabhupada says that although Prahlad was born in the family of Daityas, he was a great devotee from his childhood. Because of his devotional service and godly nature, he is considered to be a representative of Krishna. So the Lord is always in love with the devotees. So I was actually searching what Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, that he's a representative of Krishna. So I looked Srila Prabhupada's purports from the Canto 7, and there Srila Prabhupada mentions that Prahlad Maharaj was constantly in full engaged in the thought of Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is Govinda, the Prahlad Maharaj always is to engage himself always in the meditation, and thus he was protected by Govind. Just as the small child of the lap of his father or mother is fully protected, a devotee in all conditions is protected by the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada says that, does that mean that the Prahlad Maharaj was attacked by the demons? The Rakshasas, Govindas, or Rakshasas. The Govinda was also attacked by the demons. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. But Srila Prabhupada says, no, this is not possible at all. There have been many incidents, attempts by the demons to hurt or kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he cannot be injured by the material means because he is always in transcendence. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that demons sometimes declare that a devotee that they cannot accept the existence of God because they cannot see him. But what the demon does not know is that the Lord himself, he said in Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 verse 25, that I am never manifest to the foolish or unintelligent. For them, I am covered by Yoga Maya. So the Lord is open, being seen only by devotees, but non-devotees cannot see him. That the qualification of seeing God is stated in Brahma Samhita, where Srila Prabhupada explains that the devotee who has developed a genuine love for Krishna can always see him everywhere, whereas a demon, not having a clear understanding of the Supreme Lord, cannot see him. When Hiranyakashipu was threatening to kill Prahlad Maharaj certainly saw the column standing before him and his father. And he saw that the Lord was present in the pillar to encourage him not to fear his demonic father's words. The Lord was present to protect him. Hiranyakashipu marked Prahlad's observation and asked him, "Where is your God?" Prahlad Maharaj replied, "He is everywhere." Then Hiranyakashipu asked, "Why he is not in this pillar before me?" Thus, in all circumstances, the devotee can always see the Supreme Lord, whereas the non-devotee, they cannot see. And also, we must develop, like for me, it is a lesson from, like what I understand here is that how Prahlad Maharaj was very dear to Lord Krishna, because from the childhood, he has developed the love for Krishna. And in uh, Prahlad Maharaj, he has given one instruction to his friends that to develop, he tells his friend that, my dear friend, develop the vision to see the Krishna everywhere, all circumstances. So that I must see that in every time I must see the God. I must see that everywhere the God, but I'm not just pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, and other devotees, but I must try to see that in all circumstances we must see the God's hand. So I came across one Srila Prabhupada's, one of the senior devotees, he has given his realization and mentioned about the Srila Prabhupada, that when Srila Prabhupada was in Chicago and they were going for the program, and there was cold, cold breezing, and the devotee forgot to bring jacket for Srila Prabhupada, and he apologized, Srila Prabhupada, sorry, I forgot to bring jacket, but it's cold. Srila Prabhupada just simply looked at the sky and said, oh, it's cold, breezing. Is it not the Lord Krishna is embracing all of us? So that is the vision. That is the pure devotee. He thinks about every time about the Krishna, about Krishna's hand. And not, he could have said that devotees said that why you didn't bring the jacket, or next time I will bring, or why you forget. But he didn't say that. Instead, he looked at and said, yes, it's cold breezing, it's Lord is embracing all of us. Also, there's another example how Srila Prabhupada sees Lord everywhere. When Srila Prabhupada was visiting in Sydney, and he was in Parramatta, in suburb. So in that particular, when he saw the Parramatta board, he looked at, and he just took he saw that, oh, it is like he remembers the Srimad Bhagavatam verse, and he said that it is Paramataha. Instead of Paramata, he said Pramataha. So I think then I checked it, and then there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, verse 12, chapter 22. That's Nunam Paramataha Kurute Vikram. So that is the vision the pure devotees are developing, and they see God everywhere. Even Lord Chaitanya, when he used to be in Puri, even though he sees the trees, he used to go and embrace the trees and say that these are the Vrindavan tree. He always see in any jungle or trees, he always think that this is the Vrindavan. And also when you see in the small hills, like small Govardhan type, we always think that, yes, this is the Govardhan hill. This is the Govardhan hill. So that vision I must inculcate while studying. And also, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that if you want to develop the vision, you must, because God is everywhere. See the Srila Prabhupada's books, you read the books, be in association with the devotee, and then you will slowly develop that vision. And then, like how the Prahlad Maharaj was so dear to Lord Krishna, so I must try to follow that footstep of Prahlad Maharaj. Hare Krishna, this is my realization.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Avinash Prabhu and Sopan Prabhuji, for very nice realization on this verse. And thank you, Amrish Prabhu, for giving us opportunity to prepare realization and share this realization among our team here. So in this verse, 10.30, Krishna continue describing his opulences. Now he's saying that among Daitya demons, I'm the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I'm the time. Among the beasts, I'm the lion. And among birds, I'm a Garuda. So Prahlad Maharaj, So there is quite a lot of information given in Srimad Bhagavatam on Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsimhadev. So I was actually reading one of the purport given by Srila Prabhupada on Prahlad Maharaj, and he was meditating on some of the points, because here it says that among the demons, I'm the devoted Prahlad. But when you think of the demons and demonic tendencies, Prahlad Maharaj was completely opposite. Among the demon, his father Hiranyakashipu was the greatest asura. He was actually greatest impersonalist, as it was described in Srimad Bhagavatam. He was actually, after all the material opulence, he wanted to conquer everything. And there was no end to his greed. But his very son, Prahlad Maharaj, he is also one of the Mahajans. Even he is born in the family of Asuras. He was a devotee, he was a great devotee. And his tendencies, as it says here, Srila Prabhupada, he's a godly nature, and his devotional service is considered to be a representative of Krishna. So as Prahlad Maharaj, since his born, actually, he was a devotee. And it is very nicely described that he heard, actually Narad Muni, when was actually giving discourse on Srimad Bhagavatam to his mother, Prahlad, when he was in the womb, he heard everything. And he did not forget, even he was born. But normally, most of the living entities, or ordinary living entities like us, me, that we forget everything after we take birth, when we come in contact with, our parents and family members. Srila Prabhupada says we're all under the illusion. And thus we also forget the promises that we made to Lord Krishna when we were in the womb of a mother. But Prahlad Maharaj did not forget. So that was one of the points I was meditating. So that proves he wasn't actually an ordinary personality. And even, actually, we all know the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. So the devotion of Prahlad Maharaj, Sopan Prabhu also mentioned that he was always in constant meditation of Lord Krishna under very trying circumstances, that his father, he is trying to kill him by various methods. His devotion and his meditation was never disturbed. So that is a symptom of pure devotee. And even after, when Hiranyakashipu was killed, and Lord Nrsimhadev asked, what he want, Prahlad Maharaj never asked anything, but later, when it was insisted, he actually asked, his father to be pardoned and given the liberation. So that proves that actually Prahlad Maharaj never asked anything for himself, but even his father actually, he tried to kill him, but he had no actually enmity in his heart toward his father or anyone. He never considered anybody his enemy. So when you meditate on all these qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, so he's a pure most devotee, and that's why he was called one of the Mahajans. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned this point all the time, that we should actually follow in the path actually shown by the Mahajans, so that is the actually proper way, because we cannot have the actually ability and even the time to study all the Vedas and actually conclusion of all the Vedas and understand it by ourselves. So it's better actually we follow the Mahajans and their instructions. That way we can actually able to progress on this path of devotion. So that is actually what I try to actually understand from the actually pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj. Among time, he says that among subduers, I'm the time. So time factor is also very important, and it's an impersonal aspect of the Lord. In Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 3, there's a lot of information given on this time factor, as mentioned by Avinash Prabhu as well. But it says that the impersonal time factor is the background of material manifestations. As the instrument of Supreme Lord, it is ingredient of assistant offer to material nature. No one knows where the time began and where it ends. It is the time only which can keep a record of creation, maintenance, destruction of a material manifestation. This time factor is the material cause of creation and is therefore self-expansion of personality of Godhead. The time is considered the impersonal feature of the Lord. So yeah, that's actually again confirms, it's a impersonal aspect of the Lord Himself. Also, the main function was also described there, where it says that time destroys everything. Materialist in material consciousness, they are engaged in producing so many things in the name of economic development. They think that by advancing in satisfying the material needs of man, they will be happy. But they forget that everything they have produced will be destroyed in the due course of time. From history, we can see that there were many powerful empires on the surface of the globe that were constructed with a great pain and great perseverance. But in the due course of time, they have all been destroyed. Still, the foolish materialists cannot understand that they are simply wasting time in producing material necessities, which are destined to be vanquished in a due course of time. This waste of energy is due to the ignorance of a mass of people who do not know that they are eternal and they have eternal engagement also. They do not know that this span of life in a particular type of body is but a flash in eternal journey. Not knowing the fact, they take a small flash of life to be everything, and they waste time in improving economic condition. So this particular, actually, the excerpt from the purport given by Srila Prabhupada was actually, I found it very, it made me think that actually how time, as Krishna is called Ishwar, Paramishwar, the supreme controller, is controlling everything, every aspect of this material creation, and that include us as well. But again, as we say, we are under illusion. We always means we do not realize this. Even we realize, we cannot able to put into practice, and that's why actually we're always fighting with the Maya and try to struggle. Maybe it's one of the hurdle for us for our progress on this path. So Krishna, as a actually impersonal time factor, actually teaching us every moment that we do not belong in this body, in this material world, and we have to return to the Godhead. So Krishna as a time factor, is a very important thing we need to actually understand. I also try to find some information about the Garuda, where it says among birds and the Garuda. And I found some description given by Srila Prabhupada in one of his lecture, where I think it's a reference from Canto 4, where actually the description of Lord is given, where it says the Lord's face was very beautiful. His head was decorated with a shining helmet and golden ornaments. The helmet was dazzling and was very beautifully situated on his head. The Lord had 8 arms, which held a particular weapon. The Lord was surrounded by demigods, great sages, and other associates. They were all engaged in his service. Garuda, the carrier of Lord, glorified the Lord with Vedic hymns by flapping his wings. Garuda appeared to be an inhabitant of a planet known as Kinnarlok. So later, Srila Prabhupada actually mentioned that their bodily features, the inhabitants of Kinnarlok, they have a body like a human being, but they have wings. So the inhabitants of Kinnarlok also, they are very expert in singing the glories of the Lord. So here, I think some short description I found about the Garuda, and actually here says that actually he glorified the Lord with a Vedic hymns by clapping his wings. Yeah, so that is actually what I wanted to share on this verse. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, devotees. Thank you very much, Avinash Krishna Prabhu, Sapan Prabhu, Srila Prabhu, for your very nice realizations. This verse was quite nice. Just have some points that I've picked up from this verse. So Srila Prabhupada, first of all, in the purport mentions relating to the translation about Prahlad Maharaj, and the devotees are very nicely explained in detail about the role of Prahlad Maharaj and who Prahlad Maharaj is in relation to Krishna Loka. And despite being born in a family of Daityas, or atheistic or Asura classes of people, and Srila Prabhupada mentions atheistic, so it's not necessary that Asuras are some other people. Anyone that's atheistic can, in this day and age, can also be classed as a Daitya. And yet, despite in being from a family of Daityas, Prahlad Maharaj was a great devotee from his childhood, and we all know the pastime there. But that also shows that in any capacity and in anywhere that an entity is born, the devotional service or their journey in Krishna consciousness is they're still able to do so. There's not that if you're born in a family of Daityas that you cannot become a devotee. Obviously, it's not limited to one life. Whatever karma that we gain and accumulate throughout our past lives lead us to our current life, but the assurance is there that there is no, in any wherever you are, whether you're in Patalok, in earthly planets, heavenly planets, anywhere, their access to devotional service is there in whatever capacity. The second point that I found particularly interesting was when Lord Krishna says that among subduers I am time. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that there are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things in the material universe and thus represents Krishna. So I thought this was very interesting because, as we know, and as is explained by the devotees, particularly Srila Prabhupada, that time is the destroyer. And if that being said, even though there are things that can subdue people or environments, etc., that is limited, whereas time is always constant. And because time is constant, time is ever changing, yet always stays the same. And time affects everything as well. So that is why it represents Krishna. I found that point particularly interesting. And that was the main takeaway for me in this verse, that even the word used is that subdue, and that time subdues everyone, which I also thought was interesting, because ultimately, we are subdued by time. Whatever ambitions you have, whatever goals you may have in life, it can be struck down at any moment because of time. We never know when our time is coming. And so ultimately, whoever we are in this world, whatever we make of ourselves in this world, ultimately we will be subdued by time, either at the time of death or even, throughout time. If you, look at all these famous people that even hundreds of years, people know about them for hundreds of years. But even throughout, then, if it will ultimately, their legacy or whatever will be subdued, will be misrepresented, etc., etc. But Lord Krishna, being God, is never subdued, and therefore Lord Krishna is time. As time continues, time is continuous. So yeah, that is my realization for this week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for your wonderful realizations, as always. Prahladaschashmidaityanam Kalaha kalaya yatam aham Kalaha kalayatam aham Mruganam cha mrugendoham Vainateyascha pakshinam Vainateyascha pakshinam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devotee Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. So, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Srila Gurudev ki jai. This verse is very, very dear to my heart because this is the one verse that I do remember that I used to read. And I think I have mentioned this earlier also. This is the one verse that I do remember when I used to read the Bhagavad Gita that stood out to me. And the difference between the Bhagavad Gita that I read as a child and Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, the word here mentioned is that among the Daitya demons, I'm the devoted Prahlad. So when I read, I used to read as Bhaktat Prahlad, Uttam Prahlad. And it really stood out because I thought, okay, this is something Uttam, the best. And we all want to be the best, strive to be the best. So what's the example? How do they conduct themselves? How can we be the same? So those kind of thoughts as a child, you hear the stories of Prahlad Maharaj as well. So when I was meditating upon this verse, I realized that actually, what is the identification? What is the first identification of Prahlad Maharaj? The identification of Prahlad Maharaj is not that he was born in a Daitya family, but the identification of Prahlad Maharaj is that he is the greatest devotee, one of the greatest devotees of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then immediately the thought came that, and he was born in a Daitya family. So the devotee accepts any position is a lesson to learn for a person like me, that the devotee accepts any position to preach the glories of the Lord. It's not about me. It's about what pleases Krishna. It's not about where I want to go. I want to go back to Godhead. But Krishna might have other plans. Am I ready to follow Krishna's plan? These are the questions that came to my mind. And I was meditating a lot upon this because I thought, no, actually, I really don't. I'm done with this material world. I don't want to be here. I don't want to come back here. What to speak of even lower planetary systems. But am I eligible? And if I'm not eligible, and say, if I glide down because of my sinful activities into the lower planetary systems, then there is still hope. Because we cannot reach Krishna without the representative of Krishna. And Krishna is so merciful that he has his representatives everywhere to remind us that our existence is solely and solely for the purpose of serving and loving Lord Krishna. So it also reminds me of the verse where Krishna says that, I'm there with you as Krishna is watching as a super soul. Each and every activity that we are performing. And then for that, wherever we go, Krishna is accompanying us. And I always feel like, well, really Krishna doesn't have to do that, right? I mean, why? But he's so merciful. He's doing that for us. And this is the proof, because everywhere he has made such wonderful arrangements. And I was thinking then, what is it that is lacking? It's my efforts that is lacking. That's the answer that came immediately to my mind. Everything is there. All the arrangements are there. There is no qualification required except your sincerity and your enthusiasm to do your devotional service. Utsayat nishayat dhairya. This verse of Nectar of Instruction. So the first point about Prahlad Maharaj that came to my mind after reading Srila Prabhupada's books and before reading Srila Prabhupada's books is that Prahlad Maharaj is one of the Mahajans, 12 Mahajans. So they are in the topmost position of the devotees of the Lord. And yet, he has accepted to be where Krishna wants him to be. So that's the first lesson that I have learned, that it's not where I want to go. It's where Krishna wants me to go and what Krishna wants me to do. And so in the present, thinking not much about my past or future, but in the present, Krishna has put me in a particular position, in a in association of devotees, in a particular household. You're born in a particular household, you're living in a particular household, you're living in a particular country. All these things, because sometimes I feel like, at least I'm talking about myself, that you tend to complain, this could have been better, or that could have been better, or this and that. And I feel there is always a reason that Krishna has put us in a particular position, and it is the best for us. So I have to believe that that is the best for me, and then the next step forward, try to preach his glories. And that way, then we can follow the footsteps. Srila Prabhupada came to this material world. Srila Gurudev came to this material world just to pick us up from this precarious condition and give their shelter. The second point about among subduers I am time, that's also such a wonderful statement by Lord Sri Krishna, because in the material world, I think there is one, my personal frustration in the material world, if I can say, sums up in the time factor, in terms of that it is just never enough time. Well, Krishna has given enough time. Maybe I'm not managing my time properly, but there's always not just enough time. And time is, you can say time is, in a way, it's good, and it's in a way it's bad, both ways. But I always feel, especially when you're trying to do your devotional service, what if there was no time limit on what you're trying to do? And then we read about there is no time limit in the spiritual world. So then the thought comes that, yes, maybe I should start to practice my life in such a way, surrounded with the spiritual activities, then that time doesn't impact me. And the biggest subduer, because it is, I feel always, I mean, as I, before, when I was studying or any of my activities, I always felt that I was chasing time. So it is very personal, and it's very relatable, this particular statement to me. And it does subdue you. It does subdue you. And then it subdues you because over time, things happen. And then ultimately death happens. And that's the biggest subduer, Srila Prabhupada says, either you accept that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or you don't accept. But then at the time of death, you will have to accept. So I think this verse is one of those verses which is it's very motivating also, and it's also giving you the guidelines of what how you should be thinking, what your thought process should be. So then of course I was thinking that like my Prabhuji Amrish Prabhu's just gone to India. So before he was leaving for India, and I'm sure with everyone else, we go to places. So maybe 1 week before, 1 month before, planning, okay, we're going to do this, that, we need to take these things, and we need to, pack these things, make sure we got everything for ourselves and then for others. And that's the thing. So when I thought about this subduer, the biggest subduer, I thought, okay, Srila Gurudev always instructs that, you should think of your time on your deathbed. So what does that mean? That means that I have to prepare myself to go. That is also going somewhere. And how do I prepare myself? Because you can only remember Krishna if Krishna remembers you. So how are you going to remember Krishna if Krishna remembers you? So is it that I pack a few things with me and I keep it, and then at the time of my death, I just carry it with me? Or do I actually keep packing this bag, which I have to then carry at the time of my death? So that practice, in that bag, I need to have a few verses. And one of these is this verse. This verse very, very much stands out. Reminds me, kind of makes me feel like I've been put in place. So, and helps me to, in a way, to also always remember Krishna and never forget him too. That principle. So, yeah, I feel like you have to start packing that bag and putting these verses in that bag, in the perspective in that bag. So at the time of death, instead of being subdued by Krishna, we can surrender to Krishna and make our life success and reach its purpose. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Pragya Mataji, for very nice realizations here. And everyone have covered, all the devotees have covered the 4 points which Krishna is referring in this verse. So this verse is Prahladatschasmi Daityanam Kalah Kalayatamaha Mriganam cha Mrigendroham Vainateyascha Pakshinam. Translation: among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among the beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda, the feathered carrier of Vishnu. So there is so much about Prahlad Maharaj in Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, that because he is one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. So we cannot stop praising him all the time and talking about him and learning many things from his pastime here. Although he was born in family of Daityas, and Prabhupada writes that stubbornly atheistic family. He was born in that family. And very materially most powerful. His father was Hiranyakashipu, who was the greatest materialistic atheistic person. But even then, Prahlad Maharaj was not touched by any materialistic desires. And when Narasimhadev tries to give him benediction, and then he doesn't want anything, and he just wants the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So there is a very nice verse which I would like to quote here. Shri Prahlad Uvacha Mam Pralobhayotpatya Saktam Kameshu Tairvarei Tat Sangabhito Nirvirno Mumukshastvam Upashritah. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because I was born in an atheistic family, I am naturally attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, kindly do not tempt me with these illusions. I am very much afraid of material conditions, and I desire to be liberated from materialistic life. It is for this reason that I have taken shelter of your lotus feet." So when I read this verse, this thought came in my mind that most of the time, as a karmi, we try to achieve so many materialistic things in the life, and then what happens? It just gives some happiness for a very limited time, and then the enjoyment is gone, and then we hanker for another thing. So all these materialistic things which draw us down are just useless, and if the very precious lotus feet of the Lord, if we just engage ourselves there, then this human life, human birth is worth it. Otherwise, it's a waste. So Prahlad Maharaj, as a devotee, and he is not at all lured by all these materialistic things, and still he says that I'm naturally attached to material enjoyment, although he is such a great devotee. So when I think about myself, I don't know where I stand. And then also the second point here comes is about the time, and everyone has covered very nicely about the time, how powerful the time is, and it subdues everything. Nothing is left in the material world which is not devastated by the time. So there is also a very beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam about the time. I'll just read the translation. O inaugurator of the material energy, this wonderful creation works under the control of powerful time, which is divided into seconds, minutes, hours, and years. This element of time, which extends for many millions of years, is but another form of Lord Vishnu. For your pastimes, you act as the controller of time. but you are the reservoir of all good fortune. Let me offer my full surrender unto your lordship. So this, whatever time we have on earth, if we are not utilizing it in the service of the Lord, then there is no point passing the time here, because um, by both rising and setting of the sun, we are just decreasing the duration of the life here. And only best time when is utilized when we are discussing the pastimes, where when we are discussing about the Lord with devotees. Otherwise, all other things are just waste of time. I mean, it's necessary to do all materialistic things as well, but if we are just using everything in service of Lord, then it is the best use of the human life. The third thing which is very interesting here is the Mriganam cha Mrigendro Aham. So this Mrigendra word, which is very beautifully that Prabhupada has given the lion, the word Mrigendra here. So it's like Mrig and Indra, Mrig plus Indra. So whosoever is the best, that is the lion. And the other word is Vanateyascha. So Vinata was the mother of Garuda, and this beautiful story about Vinata is that she she was the wife of Kashyap and also the mother of the birds. So Garud is Garuda is here addressed as Venateyascha by the name of his mother. So this is so beautiful, and we all know that how Garuda is so powerful. He's the carrier of Lord Vishnu and very always reciting prayers about Vishnuji. So by this beautiful verse, I take some beautiful notes for myself, that if the first one, like with the life of Prahlad Maharaj example, we can take that even if we are in any condition, we still have the we still can do the bhakti in any form, in any condition, whatever condition we are put in. And there is no excuse for that if we are lacking something, still we can do the bhakti, because there is no hard and fast rule for taking the taking Krishna's name and glorifying him. It's only the desire we have to have. So it's very instructive verse, and I just hope that I just utilize my time. I have desire to serve Krishna. It should be there always, and I just utilize whatever I have in service of Krishna. That's the take I take from this verse. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna, your devotees. Thank you very much for your wonderful realizations. I think everyone has given very nice realizations, and we have covered from various angles, these points. So I think we should conclude today with this, and Krishna willing, then similar points will be covered in the future also. So yeah, okay, Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shishi Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Word synonyms, translations and purposes of Krishna Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna Nitai Gaur Chandra Premanande. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Amrishwu. Can we just have a short discussion?
On what?
Intermediate class.
We'll talk on intermediate level in our group time. Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, Hare Krishna. We'll talk it now only.